Good evening, everybody who's joining from Australia. Good morning to our Austrian participants. My name is Ulrike Stracker, and I am the Austrian Trade Commissioner based in Sydney. I welcome today Brett Stratford with the Queensland Department of Infrastructure and Alexis Walker with the Games Independent Infrastructure and Coordination Authority. Thank you for being with us. Before giving the word to you and before introducing you further, I would like to just tell you how the webinar will work, how you can participate. You are welcome to give us any of your questions in the chat. So please use the chat function all through the webinar, and we will take up all your questions at the end of the webinar or after the presentations. If we have time, we can also have you take the microphone and speak. So it's possible to enter into an exchange with our webinar presenters. The topic for this morning or tonight is the Queensland 2032 Olympics and Paralympics and what opportunities they offer for Austrian companies in the infrastructure sector, but also in any type of service or goods delivery that Austrian companies might be interested in. So, brief introduction to the Austrian Trade Commission. We are a part of the I should say, foreign department of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber, based in Sydney and responsible for Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific region, Oceania. To our companies, you have access to services from us. You can contact us with individual questions at any time, and we are most happy to guide you to find your place on the Australian market, or if you are already here, we would love to support you and be part of your journey in the Australian market and in the region. So the preparations for the 2032 Olympic Games in Brisbane and in Queensland in general are well underway. And we have understood that there were initial plans of the prior Queensland government. Now, since a couple of months, the Liberal government has reviewed or has asked to review plans for the Olympics. And I understand that the current setup allows us now to see what will really be required and in which ways Austrian companies could participate in the tenders that will come out. I understand some of expression of interests for major delivery partners are on their way or have already been done. So we will be curious to hear more on that. Just some technical information on how the webinar will run. So please keep your microphones and cameras switched off during the webinar. This is to our guests, to our listeners. As I said, chat function, please write your questions into the chat already now if you want, or in the course of the presentations, and we will address your questions at the end. If we are unable to answer any of your questions, we will come back to them afterwards. The webinar will be recorded, and the link will be sent to you after the webinar, so you can review some of the things you might be interested to hear again, or you might also want to forward it to colleagues who have not been able to assist or to be part of it today. Now I would like to come to introduce Brett Stratford. Brett, you are a member, or you are a part of the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning of the Queensland government, and you are responsible for infrastructure and innovation. When we spoke earlier, you told me that your focus was on accelerating the adoption of technologies and innovations on infrastructure projects and throughout the project life cycle. And so you are leading the infrastructure innovation team, and you are working across government and also with the private sector to de-risk delivery of the Queensland government's capital program. Our second speaker, Alexis Walker, is a program manager at the Games Independent Infrastructure and Coordination Authority, or GICA. Alexis, you have directed various projects ranging from Olympic and Paralympic Games venues to major hospitals. You've been helping governments and partners navigate complex challenges and seize investment opportunities. You are specializing in coordinating multi-stakeholder programs that drive innovation and long-term growth. And you will share with us tonight how global businesses and how Austrian businesses can align with Queensland's transformative projects leading up to the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. With that, I would like to come over to you, Brett, and hand over the floor to you. Please share with us the broad lines of planning for the infrastructure for 2032.
Thanks so much, Uri, for the introduction and the opportunity to present to you all today. I do have a presentation that I will swiftly put up on. So as Uri mentioned, I'm working in the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning. We sit in, I guess, a diverse portfolio. So we have economic development functions, we have a large project facilitation function, and we also look after the land use planning functions for the state. I sit within the infrastructure group, which has oversight of the Queensland Government Capital Program. I think it's kind of important to understand, I suppose, the scale of that program, but also relative to the 2032 program and how they kind of complement and work together. So it's a good opportunity to present that to you and have a conversation about that today. Before I get underway, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. And in my case, in Brisbane, Queensland, I'm coming to you from the traditional lands of the Turrbal and Jagera people. I'd like to acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging. So Queensland's experiencing some rapid growth, and with that comes growth in our capital program as well. It's a growing state, a growing economy, and a lot of that is then fueled by population growth. So we currently sit at about just over 5.7 million people. And that growth means that there's one new resident every 5 minutes and 14 seconds. By the time we get to 2032, we're expected to have a population between 6 and 6.5 million. Just to put that in context in terms of our capital program, over the next 4 years, we anticipate delivering $116.8 billion in infrastructure works. That's at all scales of the infrastructure projects. So everything from our small projects through to large transformative mega projects. So I guess the kind of message out of that one is that there's certainly a lot of opportunity that comes with the growth and the growth itself. But there's also opportunities across the program in terms of how we manage that and solve some of the challenges that come with that. As part of a large and growing pipeline, it obviously supports a significant number of jobs, which continue to grow as well. And likewise, there are considerable workforce challenges and opportunities for us, and managing, I guess, the capacity of the market to respond. Queensland's the second largest state by area in Australia. So it's a very large area. And it's also the most decentralised state in Australia in terms of population. So most other states have a very centralised population in their capital city, like a Sydney or Melbourne or Adelaide or Perth, whereas Queensland's certainly has a large capital city in Brisbane, but it's about 50-50 in terms of the percentage of population that is in Brisbane versus out in the regions. So on that basis, in terms of our infrastructure program, it means there's some real practical challenges that we have in terms of supporting not just a growing city that's about to host an Olympic Games, but also supporting those remote and regional communities and how we provide the infrastructure and services to support them. It also then means that there's significant scale outside of Brisbane and southeast Queensland. So we're working on, and the government's committed to deliver 13 regional plans across the state, and they'll also have complementary regional infrastructure plans that will articulate the plans for each of those regions. I'd also acknowledge, and it'd be remiss of me to not note that Queensland's also quite unique in that I'm representing the Queensland government, the state level, but we also have very large local government areas in Queensland. So some of our largest local government areas are bigger than Tasmania, so one of our states. So there are very significant infrastructure programs that those local governments deliver themselves. Our program is, as you'd expect, has all the elements that you would anticipate in terms of government service delivery and what we provide. It is very much focused on, and a large proportion of it is around energy and water projects, as well as transport projects. There's also very significant components related to health and education. This is based on certainly legacy infrastructure and the need to renew that, but also how we provide those services to a growing population. There's also then other elements of the program, as you'd expect, but we're certainly then have a very keen focus on some of those elements that certainly relate to the Olympics. So we can see elements like the arts, culture, tourism, parts of the program starting to come into focus, and certainly in terms of how we're engaging with the private sector to support those kind of projects. In terms of understanding the program, as I mentioned, 116 billion is probably not something that I summarise quickly or easily for us today, but we do have a online portal where we publish the details of the program, and we update that regularly. That's the Queensland Government Infrastructure Program. It's an online resource that's available, so I can share the links to that as part of follow-up today. I think it would also be remiss on me if I didn't acknowledge that with a growing population, albeit it's not unique to Queensland, is that we have a very strong focus on housing and accommodation at the moment. And that cuts across both the public and private programs and how we're able to deliver our public and social housing, as well as supporting the private sector to deliver housing. I think there's some commercial realities that we're facing in terms of being able to ensure the supply of housing meets demands, and that then requires different approaches, which again requires the ingenuity and support of our partners in industry and across the private sector. Particularly given we're trying to address this at a scale that we probably haven't before. So we have targets around providing 1 million new homes by 2044, and there's also considerable government investment into supporting the private sector. Some of the new other non-traditional, but certainly not new approaches we're very interested in is the adoption of certainly modern methods of construction and modular prefabricated solutions to address the housing program, but also acknowledging it's a very significant opportunity for us to adopt modern methods of construction across the entire capital program. I think there's also alongside this, the opportunity to consider different delivery models and certainly solutions in our housing mix. So I think there's certainly a challenge around how we provide, and certainly from the Australian context, additional density, whilst also supporting the lifestyle that Australians are known for, but also the challenge and opportunity that comes with density in terms of the better utilisation of our existing assets and infrastructure. Managing our capital program means we have to be mindful about what we bring to market and how and when we do that. I think one of the challenges we certainly have at the moment is around managing market capacity. And this is a feature, this includes both our material supply chains and the products that support the sector, as well as the workforce that's delivering the projects. Productivity is also one of the challenges that we have. It's not unique to Queensland. It's certainly something that's certainly consistent across the construction industry in Australia and many other jurisdictions, and particularly Western jurisdictions, about how we adopt new technologies and certainly digital solutions and other methodologies like modern methods of construction. We do have the challenge around how we do that at scale, and we do it at a pace that will make a difference to help address this, the capital program and our delivery aspirations. With that, there's a classic industry development opportunity. So again, the growing market, but also there's an element of disruption and transformation that comes with that. So, even greater opportunities to, support timely growth and accelerate the growth and benefits that arise out of that. I'd just also make a comment about the construction sector generally in Queensland. And Australia. There's certainly very large international groups that work across our infrastructure and construction sector, but in practice it's a very diverse and fragmented industry. So there's certainly challenges that come with that in managing our program, but there's also very significant opportunities for interested parties to enter the market then at all different scales and stages, whether that's independently or with local partners. So I guess to wrap up, we have a very ambitious capital program ahead of us that we need our private sector and industry partners alongside us, as well as the community, to be able to deliver. We're very supportive and keen to engage with you as partners as we continue on this journey and support private investment to help our economy and community. I think with that in mind, I think certainly engaging with my colleagues and others online today is one of those opportunities, but I'd also just acknowledge that Trade and Investment Queensland plays a strong role in terms of supporting access to Queensland and intelligence in terms of our market and building those connections. I'd also acknowledge the economic development function, or the state development area that sits within my department, within the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning. We have a extensive regional network as well of officers and officers who are there and available to assist when it comes to on the ground local intelligence, as well as making some of those on the ground connections with other areas of government that could be helpful and suitable along the lines of innovation, training, small business, and so on. So that brings me to a close. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you. I look forward to having a conversation about the capital program and the opportunities in it. And I'll pass over to Alexis to take us through 2032. Thanks,
Thank you very much, Brett. I think many of the Austrian companies can find themselves in when you mentioned the housing topic and modern methods of construction. Some of the participants today in the webinar are from this industry, and I'm sure that there is quite an interest from them to find out even more about what is planned in those areas. Many of the Austrian companies in Australia who are represented with subsidiaries are in the infrastructure sector. So I think there will be quite some opportunities for them. But now, without further ado, Alexis, over to you.
Good afternoon for those of you that are here in Australia, and good morning for those of you that are overseas. My name is Alexis Walker. Thank you very much for having me today. It is a privilege to be able to speak to such a wide range of skilled and engaged participants who are ready to learn more about the Games. I'll echo Brett and acknowledge the Turrbal and Yugara people, who are the traditional custodians of the land that I'm joining from today here in Brisbane. And I'm keen to take you through what the Queensland Government's delivery plan looks like for the Games, and a little bit more around our venues and our program. In terms of the delivery plan that was announced earlier this year, so as has already been covered, we were successful in winning the Games bid in 2021. Several years of project planning have been undertaken, but earlier this year we had a reconfirmed commitment in terms of that Brisbane 2032 delivery plan and the key components that are going to help us create a lasting legacy beyond the Brisbane Olympic and Paralympic Games. That delivery plan document has outlines the key investment sort of categories that'll help us achieve that vision. The three that I'll touch on today are the transport and connectivity investment opportunities, major venues and sports infrastructure, which is importantly where I come from, and then more broadly athlete villages and the housing legacy that's encaptured within the delivery plan. There are other components to that plan around grassroots sporting facilities, tourism and regional infrastructure, but I'll just focus on those top three today. In terms of that transport and connectivity, the transport projects that were listed within the delivery plan are intended to deliver reliable, sustainable and inclusive transport services, not only for the Games in terms of stakeholders and spectators, but importantly meet the community transport needs before, during and after the Games. Brett's already spoken about the population growth that we have across Queensland and in particular southeast Queensland, and so a lot of that transport infrastructure is really about meeting those needs and growing needs in the long term. Many of the transport projects are either in planning or delivery phases, and importantly, through the delivery plan, their inclusion in the delivery plan, it's about accelerating the delivery of those projects. So we've got Logan and Gold Coast Faster Rail projects that are listed on the screen there. For the Sunshine Coast Rail and the Wave projects, there's several investment opportunities and infrastructure requirements up there, expansion of the Metro, Brisbane Metro, as well as delivery of Cross River Rail, several road infrastructure and bus corridor updates as well. Brett's touched on, I guess, the different funding or government contributors for many infrastructure projects. So these projects, for example, are being led through the Queensland Government with the Department of Transport and Main Roads, but there's also Australian government investment and local councils in many instances as well, just given the size and scale of the works. In terms of games, venues and sporting infrastructure, that's where GECA comes in. So we're the Games Independent Infrastructure and Coordination Authority. We were established towards the back end of last year, but really with the announcement of that Queensland 2032 delivery plan, it's provided very clear direction as to what our remit is. So we're responsible for ensuring that all the permanent venues, so these are the new or upgraded venues, and supporting infrastructure are delivered on time, within budget, and in alignment with those broader goals and legacy objectives as a result of the Games. Because we're responsible for delivering permanent infrastructure, there's a very strong commitment to those community benefits that we want to make sure are long-lasting beyond 2032. And ultimately, we can't be successful in delivering this infrastructure without our key partners. So state and federal governments, the Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee, International Olympic and Paralympic committees, and because a lot of our venues are spread across Queensland, we've got co-host cities as well. In terms of the new and upgraded venues that we're delivering, we are responsible for 17 venues. We've got a couple of venues as well on the Gold Coast that we have oversight of as well. Brett mentioned earlier in the session that for Queensland, we have a $116.8 billion capital program over the next 4 years. These 17 new and upgraded venues are actually only $7.1 billion of that budget. So although for GECA, these projects are incredibly important to us and we want to make sure that we're delivering spectacular venues for the Games and beyond, it's actually only a small portion of the broader Queensland infrastructure investment. So our 17 venues are spread across Queensland. We've got several that are in the metropolitan hub of Brisbane and surrounds, which is the sort of southeast pocket of the state. But we also have multiple projects across a variety of locations. And in order to be able to deliver that many venues in parallel and at pace, we've got a diverse range of infrastructure typologies in terms of the types of venues we're delivering. There's regional complexities that come at the same time. So while that presents challenges, it's also an incredible opportunity to collaborate and innovate in a way that perhaps may not have been seen here in this sort of concentration before. And just from a sporting perspective alone, the 17 new and upgraded venues are going to deliver 50 extra fields of play. So whether they are courts, sporting fields, pools, etc. Again, that's a large injection for community and high performance usage that we're going to be delivering through our venues program. We've got a complex delivery ecosystem that will help us deliver our 17 venues. So we've got councils, of course, that are the co-host cities across several of our venues. We've got state government agencies responsible for everything from transport planning to games funding, security, etc. The Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee are an important component as well. We like to say that we build the stage, but the Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee put on the show for the Games themselves. They're integral as part of venue design, but they also have several temporary venues that they deliver for the Games as well. We've got the Australian government that assists with Games funding, as well as broader biosecurity and quarantine requirements. And then importantly, we've got the international and national Olympic and Paralympic committees that are on the screen there as well. So quite a heavy stakeholder mix, but again, critical to the success and delivery of these projects and making sure that they can meet community needs is that we're working together regularly. In terms of the proposed Games venues and villages, we've got a few different responsible organisations which are listed on the screen. They're essentially divided between GECA, so new and upgraded venues on the left, Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning, which is where Brett is from, that's sitting in the middle. They're responsible for delivering athlete villages and in some cases are privately funded as well. That's critical to making sure that we're able to enable that legacy housing outcomes from the game, which Brett has already touched on in terms of that housing demand and commitments that have been made. And then on the right-hand side, I've got the list of temporary and existing venues that the 2032 Organising Committee will be using as well. So quite a lot to be delivered. In terms of us here at GECA, we've got a range of venues that are sitting in different parts of a project lifecycle, and that's sort of for two parts. Because we've been sitting in project planning and an early design development for some time, we have several projects that are already in market to move to delivery. So they're sort of moving forward at pace. And then we also have projects that perhaps have been re-scoped through that delivery plan that we're back to project planning in more detail, but ultimately very quickly moving into to project planning and delivery. Just in terms of, I guess, we may be a small portion of the capital budget for Queensland, but the interest is very high. So just by way of an example, we had an industry briefing earlier in the year that announced a lot of the procurement activities and forward workload. We had over 1,500 people attend in person and online just to understand a little bit more about the projects that are there on the screen. In terms of going through and providing a bit more detail on those projects, just given, again, there's a range of venue typologies and a range of different specialist inputs that might be required and may be represented by those of you attending today. We've got the broader Victoria Park precinct. So the precinct itself is being delivered by Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning. So again, highlighting the need for collaboration. But within that precinct, we are delivering two venues. So we've got the main Brisbane Stadium that will be hosting the opening and closing ceremonies as well as athletics for Brisbane 2032. So that's a brand new stadium, basically in the heart of the city. We also have the National Aquatic Centre as well. So that is building a new aquatic centre on an existing aquatic location. So quite an interesting mix of old and new in terms of opportunities there. And that will become the headquarters for Australian aquatics following the Games. So quite an exciting hub within that Victoria Park precinct. The precinct also has the, or is adjacent to the Brisbane Showgrounds where the Athlete Village is going to be as well. So it'll be quite a mecca of construction and activity and opportunities in that respect. In terms of procurement opportunities, we have been out to market for principal architects and we are working through the evaluation process for that, and we expect to be able to award in the coming month or two. We're expecting that to be imminent, which is a very exciting opportunity for us to really start to develop those designs and progress both those projects at speed. Just given the time constraints that we have, and we're wanting to make sure that we are taking not necessarily new, but perhaps non-traditional approaches to procurement and delivery, we also have in parallel early contractor involvement so that we can make sure that the construction innovations are identified and brought forward into design from the earliest of stages. And we do have the GECA delivery partner, which has been shortlisted and we're expecting to award soon. So that delivery partner piece is about bringing in additional project management skills and opportunities within GECA. As you can imagine, it's a huge volume of work that we need to deliver, and our staffing at the moment is not going to be sufficient. So we're making sure we're bringing in a big engine room to help with that delivery of the infrastructure program. In terms of some of the projects that we are out to market for that have completed their project planning and they're ready to rock and roll, we have 2 indoor sports centres, one in the Moreton Bay Regional Council and one in the Logan City Council region as well. They are both new indoor sports centres that are going to be providing several of those playing fields in legacy. So you can imagine community uses include basketball, netball, volleyball, badminton, futsal. You know, we're expecting that they'll be full every night of the week and every weekend. And then also we have upgrades to existing stadiums. So the Sunshine Coast Stadium, which is the render that you can see in my background, and then also the Barlow Park Stadium, which is up in Cairns. So in both of those stadium instances, it's about increasing the permanent seating capacity of the venues and then also being able to scale up for the games themselves. We've been out to market with expressions of interest for principal design consultants, and the invitations to offer have gone out to shortlisted tenders from there. We're expecting that those successful contractors for all 4 of those venues will be announced in the coming month or so that 2026 we can have a very intense design period across all 4 of those venues. In terms of the remaining venues that are sitting more in that project planning stage, so we've got the Rockhampton Flatwater facility. For those of you that aren't overly familiar with where Rockhampton is, it's about an hour and a half flight north of Brisbane. So again, just broadening the range of venues across the state. We've been working on initial project planning because it's located on a river. So that's looking at river flow, water levels, flooding, and a range of sort of due diligence pieces so that when we're in more detailed project planning, we have a lot less unknowns to the project. We've also got Toowoomba Showground. So Toowoomba is located about a 2-hour drive west of Brisbane. That's an existing equestrian centre and broader showgrounds venue, and that will include new arenas and warm-up facilities, as well as cross-country course to support all equestrian disciplines for the Games. And then we also have a new venue, which is the Redland Whitewater Centre. That's actually just completed its project planning and will very quickly move into delivery. So there'll be some new procurement activities sitting in relation to Redland Whitewater. That location is within the broader Brisbane Metropolitan Hub and is part of the Birkdale Community Precinct. So that will be a new venue within a broader community area, which we're quite excited by. Our remaining venues that are in that project planning phase, we've got the Chandler Precinct, which actually has 6 projects within it. So that includes BMX Centre, Velodrome for cycling, the International Shooting Centre, an upgraded parasport facility, as well as the existing Brisbane Aquatic Centre that will get an upgrade to provide broader aquatic support in games and in legacy. But then we also have the Queensland Tennis Centre, which is an existing tennis venue that hosts the Brisbane International every January, and it will be upgraded as well to be able to support tennis for the Games. Importantly, for a lot of the venues that are already existing, we want to make sure as part of the upgrades that we're really improving the user experience and accessibility across each of these venues and broader precincts. And again, that's part of the more longer-term legacy community benefits that we want to be able to deliver with each of these venues so that they are inclusive for all. When it comes to international opportunities, we are incredibly excited and welcome international participation across all disciplines and all stages of project delivery. So as you can imagine, across the program, there's a huge amount of architecture, engineering, and ultimately construction work that's required, as well as broader supply. It's important to note that just given in that ecosystem of games delivery, it isn't just GECA that has procurement activity. We've got Department of State Development with their Villages program, as well as Brisbane 2032, the organising committee itself in terms of their supply requirements and procurement requirements. And then, as I mentioned already, we've got Department of Transport and Main Roads with huge transport infrastructure works as well. So there's a lot of requirement to deliver infrastructure in a relatively short period of time. We do have Queensland government procurement policies that do apply, but that's also to make sure that we've got a fair and equitable and robust procurement in place as well. We have local by policy requirements that may be included in some assessment criteria, but it is one assessment criteria, as well as, you can imagine, capability, experience, etc. So it is a consideration. In terms of useful resources going forward, our GECA website lists information about who we are and what we do, but importantly, there is a procurement page on our website with links to current procurement opportunities. And so if you click on those links, it'll take you to a website called Vendor Panel, which lists all live procurement activities that we're undertaking. I've also included on the page there the Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee. They have a procurement portal as well that is constantly being updated with procurement packages that are available. Their workload and procurement activities are only going to increase as we get closer to the games. So that portal will be a very useful source as well in terms of understanding what activities are coming up that people may be interested in. At a really high level in terms of our roadmap going forward, so the delivery plan was released earlier this year. Over the next sort of 5 to 6 years, we've got an incredibly intense round of procurement to deliver project designs and ultimately construction. We want to make sure that everything is ready by 2031 so that we can actually start using these venues in advance of the Games. We've got the Games itself, so the Olympic period is the 23rd of July to the 8th of August, and the Paralympic period is the 24th of August to the 5th of September. So a fantastic time to be in Brisbane if you get the chance. And then ultimately after that Games usage period, we transition to legacy, which is where all those community benefits from the infrastructure investment get to be realised in full. In order to deliver this, we're really keen, as I said, to understand what those international capabilities and experience look like, because we're not going to be able to deliver this without your help. That's essentially all from me in terms of formalities, but very happy to take questions as we move through.
Thank you very much, Alexis. So with all the venues that you have described and all the different authorities that will tender, that really allowed us to appreciate the size, the sheer size of what you have to work through. That's incredible. And we, of course, look forward to having opportunities for some of our companies. May I ask you, first of all, we've got, I can see one question, or more or less it's a statement. There is a technology company that is specialized on innovative green urban mobility. So the company would, Mr. Gala, I cannot see which company you are from at the moment. Let me see whether I can find you on my list. Otherwise, you're free to come on and switch your MRM International. Okay. If you would like, just switch on your microphone and put the question to Alexis or Brett. So the company would like to have some more information regarding the mobility program. Alexis, or Brett, what are the best contacts for that? Would that be the State Department, or would that be a rail authority or a metro authority?
So I might jump in the first instance, but Brett, feel free to correct me if I get any of this wrong. The Queensland Department of Transport and Main Roads is responsible for developing a transport mobility strategy to support the Games. That's really centred upon where those venues are now that we have them listed within the Queensland Delivery Plan. So that's due for completion, I think, relatively soon. But from there, it'll set out what that framework looks like in terms of movement needs. Now, as it relates to technology that may underpin that, I think that's probably a question for Department of Transport and Main Road.
Okay, yes, Alexis, thank you. So we will try to get you a contact, Mario Galla from Queensland Department of Transport for an overview, and see that you will receive that information. Any other questions, please use the chat function. And in the meanwhile, Alexis, I would like you to go a little bit deeper on that local component requirement. Can you give some examples of where that would be required?
Yeah, great question. So each procurement activity will be established on a project by project and case by case basis in terms of what's appropriate. But certainly from a local perspective, we want to make sure that we are upskilling locals to the extent possible. And so part of that is about encouraging local partnerships as well. And it'll sit broader than just local in terms of geography, but it'll also cover off or in some instances, I should say, it'll cover off broader social benefits that different companies might be implementing as part of their corporate social responsibilities as well. So there's a few sort of components to it that may pop up, but as I said, we can't deliver this program purely using local resources because it's too geographically dispersed. The volume of work is too great, and there isn't the capacity within the market to be able to do that. But also, if we only deliver using local resources, then we're missing the opportunity to learn from, other locations that have successfully delivered games, but broader sporting infrastructure as well. So it's about being able to access international expertise, and whether that's in design or construction or supply, as well as being able to uplift local where possible. So that's why you'll see evaluation criteria that reflect several different categories.
Okay. So it will also depend on what is being tendered and obviously which partners are available in Australia. I have a question from NARA Consultancy, Anna Selina Young. We are currently supporting workforce capability initiatives across the Darling Downs, and we're interested in how regional workforce planning is being aligned with the upcoming Olympic-related infrastructure expansions. Are there plans in place ensuring that regions beyond Brisbane, particularly the Darling Downs, are included in early workforce planning so local industries and talent can access training and employment pathways? Is there an opportunity for consultancies like ours to contribute to that work?
I'm assuming that question might be for me. Look, there's a lot to the question. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer all of it, so perhaps that's something that I can take offline. If I can extend to the question before around local buy, social benefits, local workforce opportunities, where that comes into play, we're really asking firms, whether it's design or construction or both, to understand what opportunities they're creating as part of these projects. So that's where we're using that sort of Queensland government procurement power to make sure that those employment opportunities, training opportunities, workforce planning is really, those requirements and intentions are set quite clear from the beginning. So that would contribute in part. In terms of the remaining questions, I might have to just take that on notice, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I can jump in on that one as well. Yeah.
Please.
I think certainly from a regional perspective and looking at it from the broader capital program perspective to go, as Alexis mentioned, to go that, Olympics is part of a broader capital program. So certainly, and as I mentioned earlier, the regions, are very significant in Queensland. So we have a large capital program that's being implemented anyway in those regions, and we do have some existing market capacity challenges. So certainly workforce is front and centre in our minds in doing that. And I suppose also the way that we have been looking at our capital program, but certainly the games is around the legacy that we deliver from these things, which Alexis touched on as well. So how do we kind of position ourselves to not just deliver what is the immediate task, but how we take that forward so there is an enduring legacy across our regions and communities there. So as I mentioned before, we do have a very strong regional network and presence. So yeah, depending on the particular aspect that you're asking about, we'd be very happy to make some contacts with, whether it's the state development offices in Toowoomba or other portfolios as well. So happy to take that offline and make some of those connections for you as well, if that's helpful.
Thank you, Brett. I think Anna Selina will be quite happy to have those personal contacts. Yes. We've got some companies listening in who are active in mass engineered timber and related industry. So I think, Brett, it's your department which will develop the villages, and hence my question, or actually my asking our participants to chip in questions in that area. Are you considering faster building methods, and is there a market for mass engineered timber in the village construction?
Look, probably not in a position to speak specifically on the 2032 villages and where they're at the moment in terms of mass engineered timber, but certainly where I sit in terms of the overarching capital program, yeah, we're very interested in what modern methods of construction and that modular opportunity is, and particularly where other materials can support that as well. So as I mentioned, that very significant housing targets and demands that we're having to respond to. So like I said, we need to think of different ways to be able to respond to that quickly. So yeah, very happy to kind of pick up conversations with people who have the expertise and products that we can benefit from to be able to meet that challenge.
I would like to refer to the expression of interest that you mentioned, or I think Alexis, it was you who mentioned expression of interest for a delivery partner. Is that someone would that be a consulting engineering company? And are they at all relevant for Austrian companies as a contact, or are they simply advising GICA and the Department of Infrastructure on procurement or on other planning for the games?
Great question. So the expressions of interest process is closed, and from that there was a shortlisted group of consortia that were invited to tender. So the services are broader program management services in order to deliver the program, and each consortium might have a slightly different offering. So in that respect, they may have different skill sets, but what we can expect through that program management piece, that there could be a combination of both consulting, design and construction expertise that can sort of sit across the top. Because that makeup is likely to look a little bit different depending upon the submissions that are being put forward. It's really about waiting until that delivery partner is awarded, and what was committed was earlier in the year at the industry briefing was that they would be appointed pre-Christmas. So we're getting very close to that time now, so that they can commence early in the new year. Now, what that looks like in terms of the skill sets and expertise they bring initially versus what would then be brought on later as we move through design and construction will be worked through over time, yes.
Okay, so we will see who will be chosen, and then we will understand whether that is a potential partner for Austrian companies.
Correct. And ultimately, for each of our venues, we still need to go out to procurement for design and construction services. So it's not a case that a delivery partner then supersedes any of those requirements.
Okay, thank you, Alexis. So we've got Mario Galla. Mario, is your microphone working?
I hope so.
Yes. Go ahead.
Been trying very hard. All of a sudden it was free. Yes, hello, good evening, good morning. Mario Galla here. I'm CEO from MRM International. We specialise in an affordable green urban transportation mobility. As you can see maybe behind me, this is what we do produce. This is very, very popular at the moment. We have projects going on or starting to be signed now in Manila, Middle East and so forth. And me being a born Australian, I thought I have to put my finger into this pot and to see what possibilities our company can do something in Australia to make, of all things, Brisbane a lot better and easier city to get around in, because I have been there a few times and it has been sometimes a chaos. And of course, to help out on the Olympics 2032. The company, we have been over 15 years now, been doing testing and test tracks and so forth, and it's already going. And I believe that this product would maybe fit in very, very well in transporting for maybe alone around the villages for the sporting people and the communities and so forth and so forth. So I don't want to be too long on this. I think it'd be very appreciated maybe just to send me your contact data, and I'll send you the rest of the information to see how we can continue in working together or cooperating together, if that's okay with you, Alexis.
Mario, that's all good. We will forward contacts of our presenters, of Alexis and Brett, to you and everybody else who participated.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thank you. Any more questions? I cannot see any more that we have any more questions. If I'm allowed to ask one more question myself, Alexis, you mentioned the ICN gateway. Can you explain a little bit what that is?
Yes, of course. So the Brisbane 2032 Organising Committee have established a portal, so the ICN Gateway portal. The intention with that is to provide as much transparency as possible for business and suppliers, whether it's across construction, logistics, technology, professional services, consulting firms, etc., in about identifying what those opportunities are, procurement opportunities are in the lead up to the Games. So it's really about en masse being able to show what is coming up and what is live to maximise participation. I think it's been up for a couple of months now, so it's still relatively in its infancy in terms of perhaps people being aware of it. However, it is very much up and running in terms of live opportunities as well. Yes, so those links can easily be shared after this as well.
Mm-hmm. And would it also include a place where Austrian companies could present what they can offer, or are there no such expression of interests for companies, and it's really limited to tender processes?
I believe it's more focused on tender processes as opposed to probably more of a two-way information sharing, but I can take that offline. Yep.
Okay.
Uri, I can add to that one that we can share a couple of links that apply across the entire Queensland government, in addition to the Games in terms of tendering, procurement, and contracting portals and information. But I also know there's others like Transport and Main Roads, for example, has a long-running sort of innovation program where you can almost submit kind of ideas and innovations where you might be able to hook into their program, and certainly they have, as one of the largest components of our capital program, will engage with the market where they do have, genuine innovations that could figure on some of their projects, but certainly outside of what is the traditional tendering process. So there are some opportunities to do that, and be happy to share some links on that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brett. So I think we've exhausted some topics, and maybe there will be more information once the delivery partner has been chosen, and I would be very happy if we could continue our conversation, Alexis and Brett, around the upcoming pipelines of projects. I would like to thank you very, very much for the time you have given us, and appreciate your expertise. And we'd be most happy to put your contact information to the participating companies. We'll also share the recorded webinar with more companies, and we hope to generate some kind of conversation which will allow us to support your efforts in making these Games a great thing, and also to have a premium legacy for your communities afterwards. So Brett and Alexis, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. And over to you for some final goodbye words.
I'll just say, thank you again for the opportunity to kind of talk to you today. Very happy to have further conversations with people where we can help, whether it's Games related or the broader program. And look, it's nice to see a bit of the Games magic already starting to kind of come through in terms of these conversations with some, like-minded friends, across the planet. So it's nice to take that forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. Love seeing the Games enthusiasm. It's certainly a passion of mine, which is why I'm here, and really looking forward to what the opportunities are over the next 5.5 years to delivery.
Great. All the best to you. All the best for the preparations, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much, Alexis and Brett.
Thank you all. Speak soon.